I, 25F, want children, but my boyfriend, 34M, does not. I am considering giving him an ultimatum, even at the cost of being an asshole. Hello, everyone. I just felt the need to speak to someone and perhaps seek advice because this is something that has weighed heavily on me for months now to the point it is affecting my everyday life. A brief context regarding how we met and my current situation. All names are fictitious to protect real identities. I apologize in advance for the lengthy post. James, current boyfriend, 34 years old. Luke, ex-boyfriend, 26 years old. Sophia, me, 25 years old. Before I met James, my ex Luke and I were in an on and off relationship, which had reached the point where we were considering marriage and children. Unfortunately, his job required him to be out of state for several months at a time. Initially, we managed, but we ultimately concluded that long distance was not suitable for us, and we decided to break up while still keeping in touch. I met my boyfriend, James, 2 years ago when he was 32 and I, Sophia, was 23. We connected at a birthday party for a mutual friend in 2022 and quickly became friends, although there was no romantic interest at that time since I was getting over a breakup. We communicated sporadically, and in May 2023, he asked me out on a date, to which I agreed. From that point, we began to spend more time together, and in July, he asked me to be his girlfriend, and I said yes. Here is where I acknowledge my mistake, which is crucial to the story. I accepted James's proposal without being completely over Luke. Luke and I were still texting and meeting each other during my dating phase with James, right up until the day James asked me to be his girlfriend. I understand that this was quite wrong on my part, especially considering how sweet James is. Luke and I gradually lost touch until we stopped communicating altogether. My relationship with James was sweet and innocent, which is the best way to describe it. He is grounded and thoughtful, always considering his actions, though he often speaks impulsively. When his family or friends would inquire about him having children, he would respond, "Forget those kids." And when discussing marriage, he would say, "My parents never married and they are doing fine, so why should I?" Notably, his parents do not even live together. I have attempted to discuss the topic of children multiple times, but he became very upset or even ignored me entirely. I have always adored children, and becoming a mother is one of the few things I genuinely desire in life, a goal I am unwilling to relinquish for anyone, no matter how much I love them. Since childhood, I have dreamed of having my own family one day. One day in June, we were sitting on the couch in our living room when I was experiencing severe menstrual cramps, and the conversation went like this: "James, are you okay?" Me: "Yes, I'm just having cramps, or maybe it's morning sickness, I might be pregnant." James: "Why would you say something like that? That's not even funny, don't joke about it." He became upset very quickly. Me: "Dude, I'm on my period, I was just kidding. By the way, we never really discussed what would happen if I ever got pregnant." James: "Yes, we did. We decided you would get an abortion." Me: "I never said that. You asked me if I believed in abortion and I said yes, but I wouldn't get one unless it was absolutely necessary." James: "Well, there you go, you'll get an abortion." To say that I was utterly heartbroken when he told me that would be an understatement. I genuinely could not believe he suggested I get an abortion. It made me view him differently, and I became anxious every time we had sex because I was fearful of becoming pregnant. This conversation occurred at the end of June. In July 2024, we celebrated our first anniversary by having dinner at a nice local restaurant. When we arrived, guess who our server was? Yes, it was Luke. It felt like a scene from a romantic comedy. It took me a moment to comprehend what was happening, and I tried to play it off as best as I could since I was on an anniversary date with James. However, I could not focus on him or my food. All I could think about was Luke. At the end of our dinner, we returned home, and that night I received a text from Luke, and we began talking again to see how each other was doing. It turned out he had started dating another woman, 36 years old, and she was pregnant, but there was a lot of baby mama drama, as he described it, because she had been unfaithful and did not know if the baby was his. When the baby was born, DNA results confirmed it was his. After that, I spiraled into sadness and emotional distress. Here I was, thinking of someone I loved, someone I cared for, whom I envisioned marrying and having children with. The one thing I desperately wanted in life was a baby. This situation made me distance myself from many things, especially James. I felt jealous and angry with him and the world because, in my mind, he was the barrier standing in the way of what I wanted. James sensed something was wrong in our relationship from that point on because I was less communicative. I was perpetually upset, and everything he did seemed wrong in my eyes. It wasn't until October that we both attended a friend's Halloween party, and I finally told him that we needed to have a conversation the following day. The day after the party, he brought it up. "James, you mentioned there was something we needed to discuss." Me. "Yes." I struggled to begin the conversation and began crying out of frustration and sadness. "James, is it that you want to break up?" Me. "It's not exactly that. It's just that when you told me that if I ever got pregnant I would get an abortion, it absolutely broke my heart and I can't stop thinking about it." James. "I never told you to get an abortion." Me. "Yes, you did that day on the couch when I joked about being pregnant." James. "Oh, yeah." Me. "Do you genuinely not want children?" James. "I will eventually want kids, maybe in the next 5 to 7 years. They just don't fit into my current lifestyle." Me. "James, I want to have children before I turn 30. I understand that men can have children at any age, but for women, it becomes increasingly difficult. Pregnancy is already risky, but the older you get, the more complications can arise." James. "Okay, and why do you want children right now? Maybe you should focus on something else and see what you want to do with your life." After that, the conversation took a completely different turn, and ultimately nothing was resolved. Everything was redirected towards me. Since then, I have not brought up any discussions regarding children or marriage again, but it has started to affect me profoundly. His sister became pregnant, my friend did too, and more recently, I began seeing my friends and family announcing their engagements and pregnancies. I am truly happy for them, as it is a tremendous blessing for all of them. However, I cannot help but feel a surge of resentment and jealousy toward them. It has reached the point that I cry whenever I see another announcement. I cannot walk through the baby aisle at stores without tearing up, and any family-oriented place or event where children are present causes me to cry. I genuinely do not know what to do anymore. I have attempted to discuss this with my parents, but they merely advise me to give it time, suggesting maybe he will change his mind. However, that maybe could stretch into a never, and I don't want to find myself in my 60s or 70s regretting my life and missing the opportunity to become a mother. James and I have not been intimate since October 2024, and he keeps asking for it, but I cannot bring myself to engage in any intimacy. He does not want children. If I were to become pregnant, I would not have an abortion, but I also cannot burden him with a baby he never wanted. He once stated that he would take responsibility, but I know he would resent me and the child. It seems the best option is to refrain from having sex altogether, but that has also placed a strain on our relationship. I have considered in vitro fertilization and possibly having a child that way. I would break up with James and raise the baby on my own. That has been the most viable solution, thus far. I need to discuss our next steps in this relationship with James and proceed from there. Luke has also been attempting to reconnect to see if we might try our relationship again. He has broken up with his baby's mother for a few months now. I have contemplated it, but I realize it would complicate matters even further. Please share your thoughts or comments regarding my situation, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions. Story 2. I've tried so hard to be close to my nieces, but I took him realizing they don't like me. I took him currently grieving the end of an engagement, and possibly my last chance to marry and have kids of my own. And now, I have to grieve my dream of being considered my niece's favorite, cool aunt. When I was 18, my 21-year-old brother and his 19-year-old girlfriend became pregnant with twin girls. We will refer to them as Amy and Beth. Despite the turmoil surrounding this unexpected pregnancy, Amy and Beth became the light our family needed. During my first 2 years at college, I would come home on weekends just to play with the girls and assist my mother with babysitting. However, my older brother does not like me. He has not liked me since he entered middle school. I once asked his current ex-girlfriend why he disliked me, and she replied, "He says you were spoiled as a child." My parents have since informed me that my brother eventually expressed resentment over the attention he felt they directed toward me while I was growing up. He and his ex-girlfriend went on to have 2 sons, and I adore all of my nieces and nephews. I have always dreamed of being their favorite aunt, the cool aunt someone they could confide in. When I visit, we play board games and Uno, and they genuinely seem to enjoy spending time with me, while my parents express relief that I am there to entertain them. Meanwhile, my older brother yells at them and bullies his third son who is on the autism spectrum and treats him with disdain. The twins notice and occasionally mimic his bullying behavior. It breaks my heart. With this in mind, after college, I moved around to different states and eventually settled in my dream destination, New York City. Last year, I paid for my nieces to visit me during their spring break when they were 11 years old. My brother initially acted like he would not sign the permission slip I needed for their flights, but he eventually relented after my parents urged him. I planned a detailed itinerary, flew to my home state of Alabama, returned to New York City with them on their first ever flight, and we experienced something new and exciting every day. The Lion King on Broadway, Times Square, the Statue of Liberty, and more. I even flew back just to take them home before my return. I invested a significant amount of money in their visit, but it was worth it. A few months later, I gifted them a custom scrapbook I had created to commemorate the trip. What you need to understand is that a few years ago, I married very young. That marriage lasted less than 2 years before we divorced, ironically, the same year my brother and the mother of the girls divorced. And just last month, I concluded an engagement with a man whose alcoholism concerned me. I am now 31 years old. My birthday is in May, and fully aware that, at this rate, I may never marry or have children of my own. However, I believed this would be acceptable because I had my nieces and nephews, and they adored me. Or so I thought. I was mistaken. I temporarily moved in with my parents to save money and determine where I would reside next, either back in New York City or Chicago, and I anticipated that my nieces would be excited to spend time with me. My brother was evicted 6 months ago and is also staying at my parents' house, which is the first time we have both been here since we were minors. Despite being in close proximity, he and I have not greeted one another or acknowledged each other's presence since my arrival. The twins are now 12 years old. When I visited in the past, I would take them for pedicures, buy Starbucks, and go out for meals together. However, this time when I suggested a pedicure, they either blinked at me or did not respond. I found that odd. They are not even preteens yet. Then, I tagged along with my mother to observe Beth at cheerleading practice. I noticed that as we entered, Beth ran ahead of us, and I assumed she was embarrassed to be with my mom. I remarked to my mom, "That's rude. You would never have let me walk ahead of family like that." However, Beth is working diligently on her cheerleading, and I am so proud of her. It was enjoyable watching her do her routine. Later, my mother and I went to pick her up again, and my mother insisted that I go inside to retrieve Beth while she waited in the car. I had an uneasy feeling about that, but she persisted. I went inside, and when I spotted Beth, I exclaimed, "Beth!" with a smile, but she looked at me as if she were startled. We walked back to the car, and she seemed angry until I insisted we go to a restaurant together, at which point she became cheerful. A few days later, I took her and her siblings to Starbucks and spent $50 on them. Then, we returned home and played Uno, having so much fun together that they repeatedly begged me to play another round. Later, I casually mentioned that I was excited to see Beth have her cheerleading pictures taken. I planned to accompany her and my mother the following afternoon. Her eyes widened, and she stated, "You do not have to come. It will not take that long." I dismissed her comment, but later that night, as I was falling asleep, I realized she didn't want me there. The next morning, I asked her directly, "Why don't you want me to come?" She smiled broadly and said, "I do." However, as the day progressed, my mother told me privately, "You do not need to come. It will not take that long." I inquired directly if Beth preferred that I not be there, but my mother evaded the question. Then, as if it were prearranged, my father entered the room and asked if I wanted to go out to dinner with him, the boys, and my brother. I asked my father in private whether Beth wanted me there, and he claimed he had no idea, stating that he and my mother had not discussed it. Eventually, my mother exclaimed in an exasperated tone, "You can come if you want," but I replied that I did not wish to attend if I was not welcome. At the restaurant, my father and I barely spoke because my brother acted as if we did not exist, creating a tense atmosphere. There was conflict when my brother allowed Amy to take food from the youngest son's plate, but when his first son requested some, my brother snapped at him, Eat your own food, and criticized the way he was eating. My father defended his grandson, and suddenly, I had an epiphany. My brother bullies his son the same way he bullied me, and he constantly resents our father for defending the victims of his bullying. Amy, who is normally very sweet toward me when her father is not around, treated me like an outcast. I have noticed that she often tells me I am pretty and praises my clothes when her father is absent. However, as soon as he is present, she treats me with disdain or remarks, "I hope I do not look like my aunt someday," while grimacing. Fast forward 2 days, right after my brother brought the kids home from school, my mother abruptly came into my guest room and said in an angry tone, "Do you want to go with your nieces to Beth's tumbling practice?" I felt confused. Why was she so angry? Additionally, why was Amy going? Nevertheless, I replied affirmatively. I attended and sat next to Beth, saying, "I am so excited to see you practice," but she immediately retorted, "It is tumbling, not practice." I blinked at her and asked, "Do you not want me here?" My mother, seated in the next room, said, "You can go," and Beth clarified, "I only said it is tumbling, not practice." At that moment, everything finally clicked for me. How could I have been so foolish? I am not the cool, favorite aunt. Amy and Beth are embarrassed by me. Amy and Beth do not even like me. The closest I will ever have to daughters do not respect or love me as their aunt. They only want my company when I buy Starbucks or pay for a Broadway show. The bond I envisioned for us always being close, like Lorelai and Rory Gilmore, but in an aunt-niece dynamic was nothing more than a fantasy. I went to my room and silently sobbed into my pillow, regretting every decision that had led to this moment. Marrying the wrong person and sacrificing all my plans for him, leaving my alcoholic and verbally abusive ex, who was otherwise perfect for me, moving into my parents' house at 31, not finishing my novel or pursuing my dream of becoming an author, neglecting my goal of acting in my 20s because now it seems too late, and wasting the last few viable years I had for childbearing. I feel sick. I cannot believe this is my reality. It may sound trivial, but the only way to protect my peace is to withdraw and be a kind yet distant aunt. The disheartening truth is, they will not even care. I just feel so alone in this world. Story 3. Caught my husband cheating with a much younger man after 41 years together. I told him to pack his bags, but my kids are divided on whether I went too far. Am I crazy for kicking him out after everything we've built? I expelled my unfaithful husband, and I do not know if I acted excessively. All right, everyone, I am just beside myself and need some genuine opinions because my family is in a real uproar about this. For a bit of backstory, my name is Brenda, and I recently celebrated my 61st birthday just as the leaves began to change this past year. My husband, Angel, well, he is a good 2 years younger than I am. He just turned 59. We have been married for a blessed 41 years, raised 6 wonderful children who have all grown up to be fine adults, and now we have 11 precious grandchildren who are the light of our lives. Honestly, for all these years, we have been as happy as 2 peas in a pod. We built a beautiful life right where we are, and anyone who knows us would tell you we were the gold standard for a happy, long-lasting marriage. Angel came to this country from Puerto Rico way back when he was just a young man, barely in his teens. You might say he was still a little green, fresh off the boat and all. However, he was always a hard worker, had a real knack for business, and he poured his heart and soul into opening his own little bar down on Main Street. It has become a real fixture in our town, a place where folks gather, and it has been good to us, providing for our family all these years. He has always been a good provider, even if sometimes his English would get a little twisted, and he has always had that, well, that spicy Latin temperament, you know? He could get riled up easily. But we always managed to smooth things over. We always returned to each other. Now, about a week ago, I was feeling particularly loving and thought I would surprise Angel with a home-cooked meal down at the bar. He puts in such long hours sometimes, and I spent the afternoon preparing a real Southern feast. A big old pot of my mother's recipe for fried chicken, crispy and golden brown, some creamy coleslaw, a mess of tender turnip greens cooked with ham hocks, and a sweet potato casserole that would make your grandmother jealous. I figured he would be tired of the usual fried pickles and pawboys they serve up there and would appreciate a taste of home. I arrived at the bar around 8 o'clock, and it was a little louder than usual for a Monday. just a handful of regulars perched on their stools, nursing their beers and watching the game on television. I assumed Angel would be in his little office in the back, probably catching up on paperwork. The door was barely closed, which was a bit odd. He usually keeps it shut tight. I gently pushed it open a little, calling out, "Angel, honey, I brought you some," and then the words just caught in my throat. Everyone, I swear my heart just stopped beating right there in my chest. There was my Angel, my husband of 41 years, the father of my children, the grandfather of my grandchildren, with another man. And not just any man, mind you. This fellow looked like he had just walked out of some old-timey movie, all pale and lanky with a head full of wild, bouncy curls that were the color of pale pearls with just a hint of strawberry blonde mixed in. He was skinny as a rail, with long limbs and knobby knees, and I swear he had a backside that looked like two perfectly ripe peaches just begging to be picked. Just ethereal looking, like something you would see in a dream and think could not possibly be real. And so young. Lord have mercy, he could not have been a day over 21, maybe even younger. They were in a position that no husband of mine should ever be in with another man, especially not one that looked like he still needed his mama to tuck him in at night. This young man was bent over Angel's desk, and Angel, he was right there behind him, let us just say in a very intimate way that made my stomach churn. It was just vulgar. So disrespectful. And the way Angel was carrying on, it looked as though they had been at it for a long while, as if it were not their first rodeo, if you catch my drift. I stood there for a minute, maybe two, completely rooted to the spot. I could not wrap my head around what I was witnessing. My Angel, with a man and this boy, it just did not compute. Angel has always, he has always made those little jokes, the kind that were not really funny about folks who are different, if you know what I mean. Saying things like, "That is not natural," and making faces. He always seemed so against that kind of thing. So, to see him like that, it was as if the whole foundation of our life together just crumbled right before my eyes. Then, I reckon I must have let out a little gasp or something, because they both jumped, as if they had been caught stealing cookies from the jar. This young man, whom I later learned goes by the name of Antoine, and is apparently some kind of fancy immigrant from France, as if we do not have enough folks coming over here as it is, turned around and his eyes widened to the size of saucers. He was even more striking up close, if you can imagine. All these big, wide blue eyes shaped like almonds, with incredibly long, pale blonde eyelashes that any woman in her right mind would sell her soul for, and a perfectly straight, almost regal-looking nose, and full lips that curved down slightly at the corners, with a little dip right in the middle like Cupid's bow. And so pale, like he had never felt the Louisiana sunshine. He looked like one of those movie stars from way back in the black and white days, all delicate and fine-boned. Honestly, the good Lord must have spent a little too much time painting that picture. Angel, he just looked like he had been caught red-handed. Ashamed, maybe even a little scared, but that did not change the awful image I had just witnessed. I did not say a word right then. I just turned on my heel and walked right back out of that bar, leaving my carefully prepared supper sitting there on the counter. When Angel finally came home later that night, trying to act casual as if nothing had happened, I looked him dead in the eye and told him to pack his bags and leave. I told him I could not even bear to look at him, not after 41 years of marriage and everything we had built together, all the promises we had made. He tried to deny it at first, stammering and claiming I must have misunderstood what I saw, but I know what my own two eyes witnessed. Then he started with the waterworks, begging me to forgive him, saying it was a terrible mistake, that this French boy just came onto him and he was weak and could not resist. Can you believe his audacity, trying to place the blame on that pretty little thing? Well, the truth finally came out, like a festering wound being lanced. This has been going on for a year and a half, 18 months. While I was at home, tending to our grandchildren, cooking his meals, and keeping our home running smoothly, he was sneaking around with this foreigner, this skinny little fellow who probably still calls his mama every night. My children are completely divided on this. Some are absolutely furious with their dad, saying he is a no-good cheat and that I did the right thing by kicking him out. Others are saying I am being too hasty, that we have been together for so long, and maybe this was just a momentary lapse in judgment. A momentary lapse that lasted for over a year and a half, And with someone who looks like he should still be in school. Honestly, everyone, I just do not know what to think anymore. 41 years is a lifetime. We have a whole history together, a family, memories. But that image of what I saw is just seared into my brain like a brand. And the fact that it was with a man, after all his opinions on the matter, it just feels like the ultimate betrayal, a real slap in the face. And this Antoine, he is just so young, and well, he is not even from this country. He just sashayed in here and stole my husband right out from under my nose. So, Reddit, did I go too far by kicking out my husband after finding him in such a compromising position with another man? Especially after all these years. I just feel so lost and heartbroken, and I need to know if I am the crazy one here. And I apologize for ranting. I am just in a bit of a rut right now and do not know what to do. Please help. I posted this on our advice a few days ago. I got banned for praising my husband. I also got accused of this sounding fake. I am so sorry if it does. I am just stressed at the moment still. Story 4. I broke up with my girlfriend of nearly 4 years before college, thinking it was for the best. A year later, I regret it deeply as I watch her thrive without me. I thought we might reconnect, but her happiness only amplifies my pain. Did I make the biggest mistake? It has almost been a year, and I made a mistake. In June, I broke up with my girlfriend of nearly 4 years because we were both going away for college and attending schools on opposite sides of the country. I believed it would be the best decision for us, but it turned out to be the opposite. I really hurt her when we ended our relationship. During the first few days, I thought it would be beneficial for me, so I tried to push her out of my mind as much as possible, but I kept feeling like a jerk. She loved me deeply, and I took her affection for granted. She frequently did things for me without expecting anything in return. She constantly put my needs before hers and loved me unconditionally, regardless of what I was going through. I could not stop thinking about her. During my first week of college, I was so excited about what was happening in my life, and I longed to text her and update her on my experiences. It troubled me that, after almost 3 months of being broken up, she had never once reached out to me. I wanted to know how college was going for her and how she was managing. How could the girl with whom I once shared such an amazing love not try to contact me even once? I texted her to let her know I had been thinking about her and hoped she was doing well. She responded briefly, wishing me well, but I craved to converse with her much more. I asked about her recent activities, and in those 2 months, she had accomplished so much. She was attending a fantastic large school and thriving without me. I knew I should have been happy for her, but I felt sad and angry instead. We did not communicate for a month after that, until she sent me a picture of a tattoo she had gotten. I was thrilled that she had finally initiated contact. This was the first time since our breakup that she had started the conversation. We chatted for a little while, and it felt wonderful, as if we had fallen back into our old rhythm. However, it also made me feel sick because I realized I knew so little about her life now and was only hearing fragments. I sent her a text expressing my happiness for her and how her experiences seemed so exciting, but she never replied. That really hurt. I looked at her TikTok and Instagram for the first time in months, and it made me feel nauseated. She is living a full life without me. She looks happy and, most importantly, beautiful. How could she be so beautiful and smile at others with smiles that were once meant for me? I would check her Spotify, feeling paranoid that one of those playlists was dedicated to someone else. I felt incredibly selfish, angry, and frustrated with myself and the world. I needed to push her out of my thoughts, so I started dating someone else. I was not genuinely interested in her. In terms of looks, she was no comparison to my ex-girlfriend. Her personality seemed dull and unexciting compared to my ex's, and in the end, I felt like a terrible person for leading someone on for months just to forget my ex. I went home for my Christmas break from college, and it only got worse. Knowing we were in the same town and just a short drive from each other's houses drove me insane. I became so anxious that I would run into her whenever I left the house. I contemplated going Christmas shopping at the mall where she worked, hoping to accidentally run into her. But then I would feel sad because I knew I was acting like a creep. I wanted to text her daily to see if she would like to grab coffee, but I refrained because nothing would hurt more than knowing she did not want to see me. I texted her to wish her a Merry Christmas, and she was kind in her response, but she did not want to communicate with me afterward. Then I saw that she returned to her college before I did, and it was painful to watch her have fun with all her friends without me. Seeing her cozy up with another girl on her Instagram made me feel ill. I observe them posting pictures together all the time and want to know if they are dating. How could she start a relationship so soon after almost 4 years? How could she be so bold as to post pictures of herself with this girl while going out for coffee and dates? Does she not think I will see it? I think I would feel even worse if she were dating a man. The thought of another man looking at her the way I used to and having physical intimacy with her fills me with anger, sadness, and frustration simultaneously. I would spend hours on her social media pages while still in our hometown, anxiously waiting for her to post something and feeling anxious whenever she did. How could she be so happy and have so much fun without me? We were each other's first love, first kiss, and first everything. Now I am left wondering if she is sharing those moments with other people. Things improved slightly when I returned for my second semester of college, but I still cannot get her out of my mind. I am starting to see another girl in an attempt to move on from my ex, but again, she is nothing like my ex-girlfriend, and I doubt anyone could ever compare. When I first broke up with her, I did not expect it to hurt this badly. I suppose in the back of my mind, I thought she would fight for us. I thought she would have reached out more during our breakup. I genuinely believed we would have reconciled by now. I am still unbelievably in love with her, and I brought this pain upon myself, believing I was doing what was best for both of us. I guess I failed to appreciate or recognize all that she did for me while we were together.